Welcome to the 10-Minute Business Tip on mynewsroom.ca. Joining me today is Charles R. Scott. Now, he is about the most interesting guy you're ever going to encounter. He has a job title, I guarantee you, there was not one school counselor that recommended this as a career option. He is an adventurer, and it takes a high degree of talent, in my view, to be able to eke out a living under terminology of being an adventurer. This guy's pulled it off. And he's joining us from Manhattan. Charles, I want to say thanks for joining us, and welcome to the 10-Minute Business Tip. And you and I started talking, I guess, 5, 6, 10 years ago, something like that. And you raised a topic that has never left my mind, which is make sure you rest. And it came to mind again. We're in the COVID time right now when you and I are recording this, and people are working from home, and it seems like the clock is getting a little bit out of whack. We work longer hours. Every day is a work day. It seems there's no weekend to separate from going to the office, and people are getting tired. I'm hearing things like Zoom fatigue. I'm hearing people just saying, you know, the end of the day comes and I'm exhausted from sitting in front of the camera. And that's what made me think of you and I needed to talk. So let's just talk about that. You know, the notion of where you got the idea from that rest was an important thing, and that it becomes actually the best ally in being productive. Being non-productive is the best way to be productive. Take it away. It's yours.
Sure. No, thanks, Paul. And I find this topic fascinating. There's a positive way to put it and a negative way to put it. The positive way to put it is, what is the secret to optimal performance? And there is a secret. The negative way to put it is, how do I avoid the ambitious person's mistake? And that mistake is going hard all the time, is not prioritizing recovery. So the secret to optimal performance is treating recovery with the same respect that you treat hard work. And there's a category of people, many successful business people fall into this category of ambitious people who are trying to succeed through the dint of hard work. And so they err on the side of pushing harder. And that will serve you. In fact, I love hard work. Hard work is the foundation for excellence, but there's a point at which it stops serving you. And so your job as an ambitious person is to recognize when you start hitting those diminishing returns and where extra kilojoules of energy are actually not where you want to go. And instead you want to honor recovery. It's part of a formula. The formula is this: stress plus rest equals growth. The appropriate amount of stress plus the appropriate amount of rest equals healthy growth. And the reason that we have this saying that stress kills, and that's such a topic in our culture, is that many people don't figure this formula out. Because too much stress plus not enough rest, that does equal sickness. And eventually it can kill people. It has killed people. So your job is to remember that you're operating within this formula. And stress itself is not inherently a negative thing. Kelly McGonigal wrote a fascinating book called The Upside of Stress. And in that book, she defined stress this way. She said, stress is a healthy physiological response when something you care about is at stake. A healthy physiological response when something you care about is at stake. Stress means you care. Paul, I hope you're stressed. And I hope all the people listening to this are stressed. I hope you're stressed about
the appropriate amount of stress. Yes.
Right. No, I hope you're stressed about your children's welfare, if you have children, about your love relationships, about your physical health, your emotional health, about your professional ambitions. All of those are worthy of your stress. It just means you care. But your job is to recognize there's a point at which that stress will do harm to you. And so what we can talk about, and there are very specific tactical approaches to treating recovery with the same respect as hard work and getting that equation in balance so that you're on a healthy growth path as opposed to exhausted, irritable, feeling like overwhelmed or this is unsustainable.
I'm speaking with Charles R. Scott from New York, and we're talking about the power of rest. And I encourage you to take a look at this guy's videos, because Charles has done some amazing things. And I got to tell you, he's seen some cool stuff, but he's run around the Grand Canyon, he's climbed Kilimanjaro, he does all these extreme athletic things, and he does them with his friends, and one of those friends is blind, so he's leading him through some of these things that real normal people shouldn't even be doing, and you're actually doing this. So I encourage you to go take a look at how inspirational this guy is. But Charles, when you and I talked before, you talked about this case in point of perhaps the greatest marathoner of all time, and how he drove home this point of the power of making sure you recover. And I'd just let you take it away, because I'm not sure I can recount it as well as you can.
Sure. No, you're referring to Meb Keflezighi. He and people, some people are so excellent in their chosen field that you can just call them by one name. So anyone who tracks marathoners and understands, this or pays attention to this world, all you need to say is Meb, and they'll know who you're talking about. So Meb is this man. He's the only man who has won the New York City Marathon, the Boston Marathon, and an Olympic medal. He got the silver in Athens in the marathon distance. No other man has done that combination of things. Not only that, when he won the Boston Marathon, he was 38 years old. The last time somebody that old won the Boston Marathon, 1931. So at age 38, you're over the hill as a marathoner. But Meb did, and people were amazed, and they asked him, like, what's your secret? And he even wrote a whole book about it. You can read the interviews, the articles, or his book. It's called Meb for Mortals. And in that book and in his interviews, he said a number of interesting things. Much of what he talks about revolves around the hard work that he did in order to win these races. You cannot win the Boston Marathon without putting in a ton of hard work. It goes without saying. So what I'm talking about when I talk about this relationship between stress and recovery, it's irrelevant if you're lazy and not trying hard. That is a different problem statement. My assumption is that you care, is that you're putting in the hard work. So Meb goes into great detail about the hard workouts that he does. But he also said a few things that are almost like side throwaway comments, things you might overlook. One of them is, he says, one of the biggest differences between the training of world-class runners and that of recreational runners is how slowly we elites sometimes run. Sometimes. When they're doing their hard workouts, none of us can touch them. They're elites for a reason. But when they're recovering, they know they're recovering, and they have the discipline to run slowly. They also have the discipline to sleep for 10 hours. I don't know many business people who brag about sleeping 10 hours a night. I have met many business people who brag about only sleeping 4 hours a night. It's like the humble brag. That's how busy I am, right? Now, if you brag about only sleeping 4 hours a night, that's like bragging about eating a Big Mac. It's just not healthy for you, and I don't know why you're bragging about it. Well, actually, I do know. In our culture, we celebrate hard work. But anyway, Meb Keflezighi represents the discipline to work hard and the discipline to recover. And he has a whole strategy. And I use that strategy when I work with executives. The concept is called periodization. And you take the periodization training model from endurance athletics, from marathoners, from ultra distance runners, from triathletes, and you translate that over to the work world, to the normal person who's just ambitious but not going to run a marathon, and how you can take those principles and apply it to business. And that's what I do every day in my job. That's my business model, is I work with people and take the lessons from the adventures I've done and these other remarkable people like Meb Keflezighi, and then apply it to your life.
So anybody who's watching this and is interested in exploring further, just reach out to you, and they could make that happen. And you've written a couple of books about this stuff. You've been big corporate America. I mean, you were running the M&A unit for Intel, so it's not like you haven't been to the executive floor, but you checked out of that, and you did something really remarkable. And we don't really have time to get into this, but I want to, at some point, maybe we'll come back and talk about it. You got told by a professor after your MBA, you got this open dance card here for a little while. You got a chance to do something cool. So what do? You go and study in a Buddhist monastery in Japan. I mean, you got it figured out, man. And so when you talk about resting and recovering, it's a powerful message. So good on you, and thanks for taking the time to do this. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Paul. I enjoyed it.